Good afternoon. Today's Tuesday, April 5th, 2022, and we're here for our regular scheduled town board meeting. And as always, we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ken, can you please take the lead?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ken. And Frank, do we have someone from our faith
We
community
do.
with us
We
today?
have the Very Reverend Andrew Montaro from the Community Baptist Church in Riverhead. Thank you so much for being with us today, Reverend.
Good afternoon.
Let's open in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come before you this afternoon. We thank you, Lord, that you are God who has the wisdom that we need. Lord, we look at our world. We need answers. We live in troubling times, but we thank you that you are a God who has promised that you have wisdom, and if we seek you, that you will give us that wisdom that we need and the grace to follow your will. I pray that you would give us that today, and that as you would bless the town of Riverhead, give us peace in our community, give us love with our neighbors. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Great. Thank you, Frank, and thank you, Reverend. And
Very
just
nice, thank you.
Just a brief reminder for our residents who may be in need of at-home rapid COVID-19 tests is still available for pickup at their convenience at the senior center or at the front desk at Town Hall, Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. Next, residents are encouraged to attend any or all of the topic-specific comprehensive plan update community meetings, which will be taking place at 6 p.m. at the Riley Elementary School, and you can either attend in person or virtually on the following dates. On April 12th, the Environment, Sustainability, and Renewable Energy. April 14th, Economic Development Downtown Route 58. April 25th, Housing and Community Services. April 26th, Transportation and Utilities Infrastructure. April 27th, Agriculture, Farmland, and Historical Resource Preservations. All right, so hopefully we're going to see you there. These meetings are for you, and hopefully you'll have an impact into our comprehensive plan. Okay, so I'm going to move forward, and can I have a first and a second to approve the minutes from the town board meeting of March 16, 2020?
So moved. Second.
You take the vote, right?
Vote please. Okay.
Vote, please.
Bob?
Yes, yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Okay, minutes are approved.
All right, thank you, Julie, and moving forward, we're gonna now move, and begin the public hearing portion of this town board meeting. Today's public hearing was scheduled for 2 p.m. It is now 2:10, and we're opening,
You want to do the correspondence?
oh, you have any correspondence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we received comments from Mr. Dennis Murray regarding an inappropriate flag being displayed in Calverton. Paul Sparrow sent a letter and a petition, or partition regarding traffic safety issues with the BJ's gas station on Route 58. Karen Blummer rescinding appointment of David Kappel as co-chair of the DRI. Brian Carroll sent a letter regarding his concerns about the procurement policy and other town issues. Connor Burke sent a letter and a petition regarding dredging of Reeves Creek. And the Greater Jamesport Civic sent a letter with their concerns on the Chapter 255 changes. And then we had received reports from the tax receiver for the month of March. And the total taxes received for the whole month was $93,600,268.18. The building department sent their March monthly report, and that was $134,433. And the town clerk's March monthly report was $11,484.34.
All right. Is that it?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right, moving forward, we're gonna open up the first public hearing today that was scheduled for 2 o'clock. It is now 2:12, and we're gonna open up a public hearing for the purpose of increase and improvement to the facilities at the Riverhead Sewer District. I'll ask Michael Reichel, our Sewer District Superintendent, to please come forward. Michael, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Today's public hearing is on the expenditures of it's actually for the bonding of $10.5 million to make increase improvements to the facilities at the Riverhead Sewer District, whereas these increase in improvements would involve the volume reduction of sludge that's generated at the facility and stabilization to Class A biosolids. I have Tim Norberg here, and he's going to dig deeper into the details, and I'll stick around for any questions.
Great,
Thanks, Michael.
thank you. Tim, how are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you? Tim Nordberg with H2M, I'm the project manager for this project. So Mike said we are looking to upgrade the facility to do a sludge reduction project. Currently, you guys are spending roughly about $600,000 a year to haul the waste sludge. There's processes out there that we've come across that are able to digest and reduce the volume of that sludge by roughly 66%. By doing that, you're able to save about $400,000 a year in hauling costs. The, of course, issue with that is, as Mike said, it's a $10.5 million project. So what we're looking to do now is we want to get started with the plans and specs, the construction documents, so that this can become a shovel-ready project, to be able to put it out on the streets to see if we can get some money to help us along. With that, a $10 million project's about $600,000 per year in debt service. And if you guys are able to get anywhere from $2 to $5 million towards this project, you'd break even and then start to make money down the road. So for us, H2M, we're looking to move forward with the plans and specs and preliminary engineering services, which is, according to the map and plan, $572,000. And that gives you the opportunity, like I said, to advertise these projects to really all the funding agencies that are available, not just the usual ones that we've been going after. On top of that, of course, if you haven't heard, it is a Class A biosolids project. So with the remaining sludge, we are going to have a Class A product that is land applicable, very, very little, if no restrictions. And on top of that, that can turn into an additional $200,000 a year in savings. Whereas if the sludge reduction project went forward now and you were able to get rid of the product, you'd break even. So we think the time is now to really move forward with the project, especially since prices of construction are going up and hauling is going up and landfill restrictions are getting worse and worse. So we're hoping now's the time.
Okay,
Any
thank you.
questions?
I have one question. You said it will reduce the volume by 66%?
That's the plan.
Okay, and does it ever get to 100?
The 100% would only be if the Class A biosolids were, given away and distributed without any hauling costs associated. Digesting solids down to zero is not really feasible. So that's not going to happen.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to say, I have spoken to Michael Reichel about this already, but the Environmental Advisory Committee is very interested in this process, and he's hopefully going to be able to come to one of our upcoming meetings. There's a point system for the Climate Smart, I believe it is, and I'm new to being the liaison, but they do have some interest in how this lays out for the environmental community and for their rankings, so hopefully be able to join us for an upcoming meeting.
in the next meeting soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
It's just going to be another feather in the cap of the sewer department, because Michael, I know, I've said this to you, but our sewer department tends to lead around the area here, and we're very proud of them, so another good project.
Absolutely.
Great. All right, anyone from the public want to come forward? No one? Chip, do we have anyone on? All right. How about the board? Anyone want to comment, please?
I think it's an excellent project, so hopefully move forward.
Okay.
say one thing on as far as the grants go, as you know, we've started the process to apply for a solid waste volume reduction grant, and that is for half of your, 50% of your project, up to $2 million. So we fit right in line for that grant right off the bat. Also, Schumer's office came out with another grant for whatever they want to call it, but this also fits right into that category as well. So,
Yeah, that was the infrastructure for water and sewer.
yes.
Yes.
So, this, again, the grant funding is all hinged out there, but this, the numbers were put together based on no grants. So any grants that we get will just be that much easier to absorb.
Great. All right, Chip? Okay, okay, they're not responding. No one else? We're going to close this public portion section of this hearing, and we're going to leave it open for written comments until 4:30 p.m. on April 15, 2020, at the town clerk's office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. And our next public hearing was scheduled for 2:05. The time is now 2:18. And we're going to open up this public hearing for the consideration of a proposed site application to construct an addition to the Suffolk Theater. Planner Greg Berman, can you please come forward and introduce this topic to the board and to the residents, please? Good afternoon, Greg.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. Greg Bergman with the Riverhead Planning Department. As you said, so the town board is right now in receipt of a site plan application proposing an addition to the rear of the Suffolk Theater. The proposed addition consists of a 59-foot, 4-inch tall addition, which will house a total of 28 apartments, which consists of 20 studio apartments and 8 one-bedroom apartments. And it'll also allow for an expanded green room, backstage area for the Suffolk Theater, which will allow for kitchen, laundry rooms, showers, green rooms, dressing rooms, etc. for the acts at the theater. And there will also be ground level retail and commercial space on that back end with specific tenants as of yet unidentified. So I do have Vic Bruzanowski is here for the application, as well as Richard Stott, who's the architect. So I will defer to them and let them, I know they have prepared a PowerPoint presentation for you, and any questions they'll be available to answer.
Great, thank you, Greg. Mr. Brzezinski? Good afternoon.
Madam Supervisor and members of the town board, my name is Vic Pershnowski. I live at 533 Elton Street, Riverhead, New York, and I'm one of the consultants for the Suffolk Theater. Been involved in this project for over 20 years, starting when I was a member of the Riverhead Town Board, and proud to be a part of it. Before I just read my opening statement and we get to the PowerPoint, I do want to enter into the record a email which was sent to Jefferson Murphy from Martin Sanluski. I will not be able to attend the public hearing for the Suffolk Theater tomorrow due to a scheduling conflict. However, this correspondence is to confirm that the current site plan has been previously reviewed with Mr. Castaldi, his architects, and myself, and as chair of the Riverhead Parking Committee, and the plan is fully coordinated with the revised First Street parking plan as recently constructed. So I just want to hand this to them. Today, we raised the curtain on Act 2, Phase 2 of the Suffolk Theater story. This current phase started over 2 years ago when an initial application was placed in the planning department for this expansion. The purpose of this expansion is to secure the future of the theater for generations to come with a solid business model that will cement the financial stability of the theater as a viable performing arts center. As part of this site plan process, we have already appeared before the Landmarks Commission and the Architectural Review Board, which has both approved this project. The expansion of the performing stage, adding support facilities, such as green room storage, set construction, other things that Greg mentioned, will provide flexibility for the theater to expand our entertainment venues that we cannot offer presently. The addition of 28 market rental units geared to artists and resident occupants, meaning it's going to be market, it's not going to be subsidized, and commercial rental space will ensure a steady income to offset the challenge of the day-to-day operations of profitability of a performing arts center. For example, during the COVID, we were closed for almost 18 months. So for future owners, for the future structure of the theater, we want to preserve the theater going into the future. So the wonderful experiences that every time I go into that theater, what a beautiful job. Diane and Bob Costali cannot be here today, and I'm here represented with Rick Stott, our architect. I also have Gary Hegman, our executive director. Meg is here, our marketing director, and Clutch is our all-around guy that does all the take, does a fabulous job. Rick is here. Rick and I will answer any questions we have, and we have a short, brief PowerPoint presentation to show the town, the folks at home, and you and people here at the town hall, what the theater, we envision the theater look like, what's been designed, and then we'll be ready to answer any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. Jim? Oh, are you going to come forward? Who's going to do the presentation? I know, okay, but he's going to speak. You came up here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All
Good
right,
afternoon,
Chip.
everyone.
Good afternoon.
Madam Supervisor, Town Board. My name is Richard Stott. I'm the architect for the Suffolk Theater. I've been working on the project since Bob Castaldi bought it in 2005. I met Bob on a rainy Saturday in the middle of the street where there was no traffic, and he explained the project to me, and I was shaking my head. I don't know, Bob. I don't know about this. He said, just come in to have a look at it with me. I went and looked at that theater, and I was hooked in a second. There's a magic in that place that was missing from Riverhead at the time, and I think since we opened the theater as it's in its present form as a performing arts theater with cabaret-style seating and a restaurant and entertainment there, I think it's really been the catalyst for the resurgence of downtown Riverhead, and it will continue to be in its second phase here. The first one is just a vicinity map. You all know where it is, right in the middle of downtown on Main Street. You can go to the next slide. This slide shows the back of the theater. You can see the fenced-in area right now, so this is from straight above it. This is a satellite shot. That fenced-in area is just a little bit smaller than the actual building area. Next. This is the stage addition section, so this level will be all at the same level as the back of the stage is now. So the back of the stage is the floor level of this whole area, about 6,000 square feet. As you go to the north of the theater, the grade rises in the back. So the grade outside is about a half a level above the floor level. So that allowed us to do some, allowed us to get outside. First of all, we have to have it safe so we can get all those people out of there in case of an emergency. But it also allowed us to put 5 stories of space above that. Next. The next level up is the retail space that's on the same level as the plaza. So the plaza level is about a half level above grade, and it allows folks to get into the main level from above by going up that half level or walking in at the lower level from the grade itself. So you can go into the stage level from both the east and the west sides, and you can go into this next level above from the plaza, which is a half flight up. It consists of 3 dividable spaces. It could be all 1 or 3 individual spaces to let. The entrance to the hotel is in the curve in the northeast corner. So that allows residents to get to the upper levels where it has the apartments. And that's the only way to get up there, so that's security controlled there. Next slide. There's 4 levels of apartments. This is the first one that's backed up to the stage addition. So in addition to 28 apartments, there's also, I forget the number, I think about 30 individual storage units. Some larger ones on this floor, and the rest are all about 30 square feet, as you'll see on the floors above this. The apartment stories, the 2 top apartment stories have balconies that face south. They'll have beautiful views over the river and to the south. And all of the apartment levels have balconies to the north side. The 2 apartments that face north have balconies. Next slide. These are the upper ones. You can see 4 apartments on this level. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 apartments on this level. There's 4 on the first level. Next slide. This is the top level, the 4th level, so you can see those south-facing balconies, as well as the 2 balconies on the north side. Next. These are elevation views. So you see the side of the existing theater, and then the elevation of the new addition from both sides. Next. This is the north and south view. These are elevation drawings, so they're in 2 dimensions, and the addition looks much taller than it would in perspective. Next shot. This is the cross-section view, so this is where you can see how the new stage and stage level and stage area relate to the theater and to the grade and the parking behind, and how all the levels of the addition stack up behind it. Next. These next images are renderings. They're made from the 3D model that I used to create my design drawings. These particular images were done by a guy in Yugoslavia. And he did these last late spring or early summer, the first 4 images you'll see. And hadn't talked to him for a while, and when things got crazy there, I reached out to him in the end of February and March, and I wasn't able to get a hold of him until last week. And he finally emailed me back, and he said, "Hey, have you got anything else for me?" I said, "Yeah, let's do some interior elevations of the stage." So you'll see those in a bit. Next slide. These are kind of dark because there's light on, but this is a bird's eye view of the back of the building from up in the air. No one will ever see this view, but it gives you a good sense of how it fits into the context of the town. Next. This is from the parking lot looking towards the southwest. Next slide. This is looking straight south. It's an evening shot with the lights on. Next slide. This is an interior shot looking out through the grand stairway, which occupies the northeast corner of the building. And the next 3 slides are of the expanded stage. That's looking out of the stage. That's looking in towards the stage from the upper balcony. And last but not least, from the upper balcony on the east side, looking out at the stage. So the stage is going to be extended 20 feet towards the back. The stage will get 20 feet deeper, and it's 35 feet high in the fly space in the new area of the stage. Plus, there's green rooms, dressing rooms, and storage space also in that area at stage level in the back. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Anyone on the board?
Vic, in terms of the development going on downtown in the water district, where do you stand with the water district, and what's happening with that?
So I just spoke to H2M. We did we hired engineers, an engineer, and we did the fire suppression system flow test, which we passed, which is in the plans that you guys have before you, okay? The one thing we didn't do the residential part of it, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna engage, per the water district procedure, H2M, and they will do that aspect of it. We already did the fire suppression system. We passed to the standards, because, you know, the building's going to be sprinkled, especially the theater, the expansion of the theater is definitely sprinkled.
When do you anticipate that will be completed?
We're going to do it immediately. Yeah, we're in the middle of the site plan now. I need it, because I won't
Right.
get a preliminary site plan approval unless we have it, so.
Okay.
I will say that, just from my own personal view here, every time I go into that theater, I meet people that have been there for the first time, and they love it, okay? And they're so impressed, and I'm so proud that it was a team effort between taxpayers of Riverhead, because initially we put the money up to buy it, to all the town boards before us, that we were able to save this structure, to save this landmark in town, and I think it's something Riverhead can be proud of. So what we want to do is make sure that going forward, we have a set in place, a business model that will continue, because a lot of these can go out of business, you know, so we need the steady income to keep the performing arts going. Also, with the expansion of the stage, and Gary's here, our executive director, he'll attest to this, we will be able to offer different kinds of venues now, plays. We can get orchestras in here that, I think there's a Suffolk County Orchestra of Senior Citizens. Our stage is only 10 feet wide. You know, it was built, you guys know, we all lived in town here. It was barely in the days we watched the movies there, and they're giving away prizes. You go up to the stage, and it was like only 5 feet. So we did put a little bit, in phase one, there was a little bit of we sent out a little bit of the original stage to make it 10 feet. So this will open up the venue part of this thing, and then we can have improved lighting. Sound system is going to be even upgraded further, and of course our new electronic message center in the back, the screen, which is all brand new. We just installed it. That's the latest technology. Yes, and definitely the water part of this we got to do. I know that. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely, if not it's one of our crown jewels of the
Yes.
town of Riverhead, without a douut, and we appreciate it being there.
And for a lot of us growing up in this town, you know,
Right,
We can
and
tell
I
those
understand the
stories.
need for doing this, to bring in
right.
more popular acts are looking for better places to go, and I think that's going to help this
Well,
out tremendously.
you know, let's take the Billy Joe Fifth Street Band. They've been there 2 or 3 times a year now, and now they call it their home. Okay, so they love the theater. Most of the people that perform there at the theater, they love it, and they want to come back. And our staff, who is here in the audience tonight, part of the staff, they do a tremendous job programming the building. Clutch keeps the place sharp, the sound is good, the lighting, and it's even going to get better in the future.
It's a beautiful place.
I can't say enough about how inspiring it is, and just in awe that I still, when you sit in the theater and you just look at the overall venue towards what you restored, how much,
By the way,
financial
it's a true restoration. Bob and Diane spent the extra money. They ordered we found the company that that manufactured the original carpet, and we couldn't get it exactly the way it fit, but the texture on the side of the walls. So it was a lot of detail into a real restoration of the building, not a fake, phony restoration. This was a real restoration, and you could tell when you walk in there.
it's incredible. It's not.
I mean, we had to add the bar. There's certain things you need, you know. Even the electronic message center, when I spoke to Bob years ago, originally we weren't going to put it in to the marquee, and then I spoke to the landmarks. They didn't have a problem with it, but we had such a delay in getting this project off the ground. When we met at the Riverhead Diner, the grill, I said to Bob, I said, you know, what we got to do is, I really want to explore this message center, and it was very costly. So the first thing we did when we got the deal restructured with the town board is we installed the electronic message center before anything else was done in the building, and we lit it up, because to me, that sent the heartbeat of the theater, and so many people said, "Ah, it's real. It's really gonna," because, you know, we had so many false starts, this was controversy, blah, 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 blah. So I said, let's send it out, and it's worked out great, so. And I want to thank the present town board for, you know, and also I want to congratulate the theater and the staff. I could not attend, but I know we had the Ukrainian fundraiser there for those poor people in Ukraine, and we raised over $25,000. Everybody donated their time. The theater was donated, and that was just one of the things that we're going to continue to do, and of course expand upon it in the future.
Thank you, Vic, and I know the theater is one of our anchors. It's actually the aquarium and the theater, and most of our town square plans, we made the theater the focal point. So the buildings opposite the theater were the ones that we concentrated on. The board agreed, 2 of them are down, the other one is coming down, hopefully in the near future. And again,
I can't wait till the
I have
grass is growing across the street so they could take down that, the barricade.
That's gonna come down.
And when people see, when they drive into the back parking lot by the riverfront, and you could see right up there with the marquee.
We're almost
and everything.
there, we're waiting to pour in the sidewalk, and then it's gonna come down very soon, by
And
by
with
the
the
summer.
square you guys are doing, it's gonna be tremendous.
And I happened to stop by briefly at an invitation just to stop by briefly. I wasn't a political event, though, and that was good. And I did witness the excitement for the Ukraine fundraiser. And Gary put it together, from what I understand, in a very, very short period of time. The enthusiasm was very touching, and I'm glad to hear that they were very successful.
And we're very fortunate to get Gary here working as our new executive director. He brings a wealth of experience from all his I know he worked in Patchogue at the
And
Patchogue
Greenport.
Theater and Gateway. He's got a great background. He's doing a tremendous job.
Yeah, and thank
And
you.
he owes me $20 on the way out.
And thank you, Gary, for giving back to the community. This is what we want to see. Moving forward, does anyone from the public want to make a comment? Good afternoon.
Gwen Mack, Riverhead
Hi,
Residents.
Gwen.
I just have a comment and a question.
Gwen, just pull the microphone down a little bit, excuse me. There you go.
I really I've been to the Suffolk Theater several times. I think it's a great idea. But my question is, will it be low-income apartments where someone who makes $15 an hour can afford it? That's the only question I have. Thank you.
No. I'll be honest with you. I'm hearing I live in town. I'm hearing criticism now about the units we have that have come up. Some of those units have been subsidized. Some are workforce housing, some are subsidized. There are other projects on the books that are being planned for the town of Riverhead that I know the developers that have bought property, and they'll be coming before the board. This will be outside of DC1, because we have a cap of 500, and I think we're slightly over there. But just for the record, the Suffolk Theater site plan was put in years ago, so we're grandfathered into the initial 500 units that the town board put in about early 2000s. And rightfully so, because at the time, we didn't know how this was going to work out. So, no, this is going to be market units geared for artists and residents.
Okay.
That'll be the goal.
All right,
I don't want to mislead anybody.
okay. And you didn't mislead anyone. Chip, do we have anyone online? No one from the audience. Does the board want to comment further?
I just want to say, I think it's a great idea on this expansion. I mean, it was wonderful. I went to the Gordon Lightfoot concert to watch the man, 80 years old, plays guitar. He's still got it. He's going strong. But I think the expansion of the stage is going to allow it to bring even larger venues, more popular. I hope that perhaps some of those apartments will be needed for additional band and other people to stay there, as you grow, and they can be on premises. I think a larger green room and so forth will come with this expansion as well. I think you're staying in the confines of what, of space you're already utilizing in the back of it, which is the fenced-off area. So I think this is just putting it all to better use. I think it's a great idea, and again, this is the pivotal moment in revitalization of all of downtown. So I commend you, and what Diane and Bob invested into this is incredible, and as I started to say earlier, Vic, I sit in awe. It's a great theater, and now Gary's leading the way with things. I think it's on the perfect track. So thank you very much.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Again, thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much for
Kuzinowski.
your time, and we're moving forward.
Gary, and we look forward to seeing progress on Main Street. It's only the beginning. Okay, so we're gonna close this public portion of this hearing, and we're gonna leave it open for 10 days for written comments until 4:30 PM on April 15, 2022, at the town clerk's office. And our next public hearing was scheduled for 2:10. It is 3:43. We are opening a public hearing.
2:43, it wasn't that long.
Excuse me, 2:43.
It seemed like it, but it wasn't.
Right?
Vic can talk, I admit. but-
Nah. And we're opening a public hearing for consideration amending Chapter 263, rental dwellings. I'll ask the town attorney, Eric Howard, to please discuss this topic. In addition, we also have Richie Downs. Is Richie here? Yep, good. Richie Downs from Code Enforcement, and Andreas from Building here to answer any additional questions. And Eric, can you just give us a briefing, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So, about 4 months ago, there was a tragic fire that happened here in town on 2nd Street. And that prompted myself and our code enforcement officer, Rich Downs, to start discussing ideas that we could implement into our town code in an effort to make rental dwelling units safer for tenants. Those conversations morphed into conversations with Andreas, and eventually we took those conversations to our code revision committee with Councilman Hubbard and Councilman Rothwell, and we developed some more ideas to implement into the town code for these safety purposes. So a quick overview of what we're proposing here includes a couple minor tweaks as well, which is the implementation of a rental occupancy registration, which is conferred on an applicant once an application is fully submitted, but prior to the town inspection. Now, that is going to be active for 90 days. Within that 90 days, they have to have a town inspection or submit an engineer's report or other licensed professional certifying compliance with New York State Code. And then after that, they would have their rental permit. Part of the permit application, we've revised what we are requiring in a floor plan and made it more specific as to what needs to be shown on that floor plan. There is an addition, with a rental permit application, we're going to require that the property owner, the landlord, supply proof of homeowner's insurance. This is intended to protect the landlord, but also the tenants, just to have that insurance that in the event anything goes wrong, there is insurance to cover the building and any property of the tenants that's damaged. Now, we've also come up with some provisions related to life safety features. This is going to be mostly applicable to properties that currently have letters of pre-existing non-conforming use. This is going to essentially require what would be compliance with current building codes. So where there's a structure that is 3 stories and is seeking a rental permit, we're going to require that they have fire suppression systems in the form of sprinklers, and we're going to require secondary means of egress throughout the building, mostly for the 3rd floor. The sprinkler requirement will also apply to any structure that has more than 2 separate and distinct rental dwelling units. And this is so that so that in the event that maybe a smoke alarm isn't working, or you have a fast-moving fire, the idea is that the sprinkler systems will activate and should suppress any fire prior to, hopefully prior to any significant damage or injury or loss of life. We are also seeking to require, we're going to shorten we're seeking to shorten the term of our rental permits from 2 years to 1 year. This will allow our code enforcement officials more frequent opportunity to inspect and ensure that these fire safety mechanisms are in place and operable, and that smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are in the correct place, that they're operational, and that means of egress are not obstructed. That 1 year term is in the code designed to take effect January 1 of 2023. So for the balance of this year, it would still be a 2 year permit, and we would implement that at the beginning of next year. With the rental registration distinction between an active permit that's being implemented, we are creating a new town code violation that addresses individuals who fail to timely renew their permit. Right now, our code is such that if you fail to renew it by the date it expires, you are automatically in violation of town code, which is currently a $250 to $1,000 fine on a first offense. This creates a violation for failure to timely renew. That will be a $100 to $250 fine, provided the failure to timely renew doesn't go beyond 90 days. And in addition, we have increased our fines for a first offense for renting without a permit. Is going to go from $250 to $500, with the maximum going to $1,500. The second offense is going to go from $1,000 to $1,500 to no more than $3,000, and for a third offense is going to be increased from $2,000 to $2,500, with a fine of not more than $6,000. And that is,
That's it?
I mean, there's a couple other smaller changes throughout, but that is about the substance of it.
All right, thank you. Richie, did you want to add to this?
No, I think that pretty much covered all the bullet points.
Okay. All right, anyone from the public? Want to make a comment, anyone? Chip, do we have anyone? We don't have anyone. Does the board want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say that there has to be, and I'll ask, I know Councilman Hubbard was involved in this as well, but we asked all the members of the board and Madam Supervisor that in order for this to work, we have determined, and Rich figured out the cost of fees. We have over 2,000 rental apartments, and to visit them each year for inspection, it means we're going to need more code enforcement officers, and the cost of the permit covers additional personnel. So we'd like to be certain towards the end of this year, and certainly in next year's budget, to put forth, additional code enforcement personnel to complete this task. So that's what's the remaining factor that doesn't necessarily state in here, but it's necessary for us to go forward, and the cost of that additional personnel is covered by the yearly permit fee, which I think for most apartments starting at $2,000 a month here in the town of Riverhead. It is an extremely minimal fee to cover of $250 for a yearly permit. And so with that in mind, just want everybody, we all understand what's entitled in this project, and what's necessary to go forward is to increase the code enforcement personnel to complete this task.
Right, and we're going to start the budget process in June, and that is the process, and we'll bring that forward. It's good to see that the legislation is in place, instead of hiring the officer and the legislation is not in place. If we're going to move forward with it, this is the proper method. So it's good to see that.
And Madam Supervisor, it was designed that way with putting the change on the term out until January of next year. One point that I did miss, and I'm not sure how I missed it, but we are taking fees out of the code, and we're making those set pursuant to town board resolution. That, I think, gives the town board more flexibility to respond to the amount of time that it might take code enforcement on average to process an application, review applications, and conduct the inspections, but also in enforcement activities and going to properties that need rental permit verifications or investigating a rental permit violation. And the fees that will go along with that, we would present as a resolution to be adopted at the same time if this goes forward to be adopted. And that schedule of fees would be something that Mr. Downs and I would present to the board through a work session discussion.
Yeah, I also think that we need possibly to have a further discussion, because code enforcement, and we're advocating for a code enforcement officer, not too sure if they should be the ones that are doing the fire suppression. That should fall under the building department. So we
Correct.
have to clarify that before we go in one angle, but that's something that we can discuss. But code enforcement should not be addressing fire suppression. It should be the building inspector. So we'll have to see where the resources are. We know we need more resources. So we'll have further discussions to make sure that we address this. Code comes in afterwards to say, for instance, you have not renewed your permit. I mean, that's when code is going to be able to come in, or they see some violation, or they get a complaint. So there's that. You can't commingle fire inspector and code, but we're going to address that, and we'll work on that.
But I'm sorry, it is addressed in the proposed code amendments. It does say that the smoke detection and alarm system interconnected and the fire sprinkler system will be approved by the Riverhead Town Fire Marshal. I think it's my understanding they would have to open a permit with the fire marshal in order to put that in.
Right.
But in any specific case where code enforcement suspects or believes that there is maybe an inoperable system or something like that, I'm sure that, Rich could contact the fire marshal and they could work together to make that determination through some kind of inspection.
Okay, that has to be worked out. Yes. Yes, come on forward, sir. Good afternoon. Hi.
Jim DeLuca.
Hi, Jim.
Hi. My question is on fire suppression system and the interconnected audible fire alarm system within the building. Are you requiring them to put it on all 3 floors or just on the 3rd floor? Is it going to be connected with the fire department? Or is it just for the 3rd floor with the pre-existing buildings? And did you discuss cost with the building department, how much this is going to cost? And if you have subsidized from the town to help some of the landlords that you're taking the non-conforming pre-existing use away from, to subsidize them to put this system in? Because I don't know if anybody here has researched the cost of putting a fire suppression system in to a 3-story building, what it would cost.
And we know that it's going to be costly, because you need additional, aside from code that comes in afterwards, you're going to obviously need the fire marshals. But Eric, you want to finish answering the question?
We didn't have specific discussions as to the cost to the landlord. We understand that it will be a cost. The protection to life safety that it provides, I think, to us justifies whatever the cost would be. And what I want to say is, we're not necessarily taking away a letter of pre-existing non-conforming use. We're saying that if you are asking the town of Riverhead for a rental permit, under those circumstances, we're going to require that the building owner, the property owner, have safety features that would be required by the current New York State codes.
Well, Mike, you still didn't answer my question. Is it going to be required throughout the building, or is it just on the 3rd floor? Is it going to be required if there's, if the 3rd floor is just storage or not?
The way it is drafted is, so the interconnected smoke detection and alarm system would be throughout the structure, and the sprinkler system is throughout the structure.
Well, you're talking about a massive amount, of course. It may be $50,000 to put that in.
The reality is it's minimal, because I think as of right now, we don't have any three-story outside of downtown Riverhead in the
Well, I don't
commercial
think
apartment
that's,
buildings.
that's true.
So,
But besides that, if you're going to force these landlords to put these systems in, don't you think the town should help subsidize them? And I saw a figure that you mentioned, that the rent is $2,000 for a one-bedroom throughout the town. I don't think that's true either. I think there's others that are a lot less than that, and some that are a lot more than that. So I think you should really do a little bit more research before you come up with those type of figures. And I think the town should do a little bit of research on fire suppression systems, and interconnected alarm system are a lot cheaper, but when you talk about fire suppression system, not only are you talking about the installation, it's the maintenance of the system. And I think if your concerns are with the third floor, maybe you should think about the path of travel from the third floor to the second floor and exiting out as far as the fire suppression system. I think it has to be more thought out than just, that thrown out there without thorough consideration what the alternatives are and what it entails.
I think it has been thought out, excuse me, Supervisor. It
Well-
has been thought out, because if it doesn't exist now, and somebody says, I want to come in and I want to purchase a 3-story, 4-story house, and I want to turn it in, then they understand
Well,
that
that's a
there's a
little bit different
financial.
story.
But it's not, that's exactly what it applies to right now, because we
No,
don't have
my
any
question
third-story.
was before, did you thoroughly research how many 3-story wood frame buildings there are in the town?
That are currently holding rental
Yeah.
permits after the fires, none, with the exception of downtown. Am I correct, Rich?
Yeah, just.
Yeah, so I'm not inadvertently financially hurting anybody.
And my other question is, if
There's more than
they
one,
have,
guys, just
they
so
ha-
you know.
they have a third story, and they abandon the third story and make it storage only, again, does that rule apply? No, if they're not gonna use the third story anymore. Say you
You
have
mean like
one-
an attic?
Yeah, say you have an attic that was turned into, years ago, a bedroom for the people, it's a two-family house, and and it was legally turned into a bedroom on the third floor. And now if they don't want to spend that $50,000 bill to put a fire suppression system in, and they abandon the third floor, then does it still count, if it's a two-family house, does it still count as part of a 3-story building?
Well, I think that should be addressed, Eric, and somehow
think-
down the line, like,
Well,
if we have to
I'm
include
pretty sure a
it,
fire can still happen whether there are people there or
they're
not,
not.
right?
That's correct.
I would say through the
Well, if
whole
it's
dwelling.
closed off and they can't enter that part of the building.
I think fire is prone to happen anywhere for any reason. and
Well,
I
a
would
lot
say-
of the older houses downstairs have attics on the third floor.
And that's fine. What we're saying in this code is that every floor will need to be,
So you're saying an
retrofitted.
attic has to be
Yes,
sprinkled?
that's what the code is saying. Is it true?
Yeah, but it would be limited if it's not stored, it wouldn't be sprinklers. It would just have to have minimum sprinkler heads to.
Well, see,
living
that's what
space.
I'm trying to address.
Yeah, there would
He's
be
answering a
difference.
question, I'm addressing, I'm setting an example, and I think to pass a broad brush without examining the systems and how they work and how they're interrelated into the building and what classifies as a 3-story building, I think that has to be studied before you just a broad stroke a requirement. And also, I think you have to check with the state building code. I think that's something that you have to do also.
We did look into that, and we're comfortable moving forward with the proposal. If that means that we have to make an application for a more restrictive local standard, we'll do that.
Well,
We're
I think you
seeking-
have to do that.
Okay, well, we're seeking an opinion from the
Working with the State Department.
State Department of State.
Yeah, well, have you applied for it yet?
Well, you don't apply for it until after you adopt it.
I'm sorry?
You don't apply for it until after it's adopted.
Okay.
But, so the analysis really comes down to what's being used as habitable space. So, I mean, you're bringing up a hypothetical.
Well,
think-
now
I
you're
think-
saying habitable space, so you're answering my question. So it doesn't apply to uninhabitable space.
Well, if they have opened up a demolition permit, say, and they've removed any kitchen features in the third floor, bathroom features, and it is unused, unfinished, you're looking at just
rafters and the
just
ceiling
rafters,
joists and
right.
flooring.
Under those circumstances, with the way this is drafted, I don't think that we would require it, but I would,
If they're removing a family, so they're removing a family,
Right.
so it's only a two-family, then you wouldn't need.
Well, I think that should be spelled out in,
Well, it kind of is, it's two or more families. I mean, I'm sorry, more than two families.
more than a two-family.
More than two families.
Is this draft available for something to look at?
it is, it's on the town's website, if you
Well,
want
I
to
think it has to be explicit. That's the only reason I'm saying, because I've seen laws passed, and they do it a broad stroke, and then they have to go back and clean them all up.
It does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, you can't always create your laws anticipating every unique set of circumstances that may come up.
Well, I have a little experience with it, that's why I'm asking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you have other questions, you can contact the town attorney's office. You know, you should have a dialogue with the town attorney's office.
Well, I'll read this and then I'll...
Yeah, just call up the town attorney and figure it out, and you can ask questions. Absolutely. Good. How many homes do we have that are third stories?
3 stories?
I'm gonna say about
Sorry.
3.
The answer you gave is none, is not correct.
No, there is. We know that there is. So how many do we have? Do we have an idea?
We might have one more in addition to the one that had the fire, so, no, it's two.
And I know of 3.
So probably a handful?
Yes.
That
no
this
more
law
than that.
applies to a handful?
No more than that.
So it's not gonna be a big
No,
part of the
it's
community, which is gonna, okay.
Safety first.
Always safety first, yep.
That's why I repeated, maybe the town on some of these older houses which don't command those kind of rents that you're talking about, maybe the town should think of trying to help some of these people out because of the taxes, especially most of the houses downtown are in the parking district, and they don't use the parking, and they pay for the parking. And I think that maybe in the town should try to, in their community development, try to help some of these people out if they're going to be required to put this kind of investment into the house. I mean, it's difficult, very difficult to maintain an old house, and most of them are on the historic district, and you can't start putting ladders out the side of the building without the Historic Society giving you permission to do it. Matter of fact, you have to go to them to change the siding on the building. If you want to change the doors, you have to get permission from them. And if you're going to start throwing metal ladders out to the side of the building, on historic buildings, and most of Second Street and Third Street in that area are all historic buildings. And I don't think anyone thought about that you have to contact these people to do this.
Have we?
We didn't talk to the historic district.
Okay, so
Madam Supervisor.
that
I
has to be
think
done.
that's what I'm trying to say. Before you pass this type of legislation, you have to look through it thoroughly.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the public want to come forward? Chip, you have someone on Zoom? Mr. Harari?
I think you're muted. You're muted, Ron.
Thank you. Unfortunately for the family of 5 that was incinerated in downtown Riverhead on Ford lot, this legislation, although arguably well-intended, is too little, too late. We reviewed various press reports relating to what was characterized as irregularities regarding the building on Second Street. Questions arising why it took so long for inspection, and why the town issued a non-conforming pre-existing use permit for a building where at least 2 inspectors issued vacate orders for the third floor space that was illegally occupied. My question is, given the multiple requests for an investigation about the circumstances of this tragic fire, what steps is this board taken to determine why those irregularities occurred and who was blamed?
So, Mr. Hurry, this is a public hearing with respect to the proposed amendment to Chapter 263. So I think in order to preserve the record, I'd ask that you direct your comments toward that purpose.
It is toward that purpose, counsel.
Well, what question are you asking about the proposed legislation, sir?
I mean, you couldn't enforce your prior legislation. You ignored vacate orders issued by inspectors. How in the world do you expect this newly crafted legislation to resolve a problem when you weren't able to address violations in the past? Why is this different?
Sir, to
Incidentally,
my
counsel,
knowledge, there was no violations.
Incidentally, counsel, were you part of the town attorney's office that was responsible for reviewing these violations and responsible for not taking immediate action to compel an inspection of the property? Yes or no?
Doesn't have anything to do with what we're
Sir,
discussing.
again, I'm going to go back to my prior statement, which is your comments should be directed towards the proposed legislation. That's what this public hearing is for. So do you have a comment about what's being proposed as an amendment to Chapter 263?
If you listened to my prior response, you'd have understood my comment is, given your failure to address violations in the pre-existing conditions and pre-existing legal standards, why should we believe that this town board, under this newly crafted legislation, could do any better?
Okay, so number one, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Number two, I would disagree that our prior enforcement of the code was ineffective in any way. So what specifically is your question about how this new...
Five people died in downtown Riverhead in a building was occupied on the third floor by a family who went back to Guatemala. And you say your code enforcement was effective, counsel?
No, sir, what I'm suggesting is that in situations like that, the presence of a fire suppression system such as sprinklers likely would have helped preserve the health and safety and welfare of the tenants in the event of a fire. That's why we are proposing this as an amendment to our code.
My question is, there were pre-existing legal standards for multiple dwellings that were present during this period prior to the tragic death of the family in downtown Riverhead. If you couldn't enforce those standards back then, if you took 2 years to have the inspection of the property back then, if you ignored the reports of your own inspectors that this space was occupied illegally, why should any of us expect, despite your best efforts, that you'll be able to do it better now?
You're drifting away from the purpose of the public hearing again. My response would be that we never ignored anything. And number two, we anticipate enforcing the code in an effective and efficient way, the way code enforcement normally does. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how that relates to a question about what we're doing here.
You ignored the fact, and again, I asked the question, were you a member of the town attorney's office responsible for these code enforcement violations? And let me remind you, you ignored the fact that this particular building did not have inspections that were required for 2 years. So my question again is, maybe it's because you don't have the manpower, maybe you don't have the energy, maybe you just don't care, but how can we expect you to do a better job when you have all of these requirements in your arsenal, and you drop the ball and 5 people are dead?
Yeah, I'm not going to specifically respond to that, because it seems like you're trying to blame me and/or code enforcement for something that happened. And it's also not relevant to the public hearing. So if you want to have a discussion about that incident with me personally, I would be happy to do that with you. But for the purposes of the public hearing, I mean, I don't really think that you're adding anything to the record for the town board to consider in whether or not they should adopt this legislation.
Well, Council, I think that you and a lot of people are going to have a discussion, perhaps in another forum, about why people died on this board's watch in a building that was not legally maintained. But thank you for your invitation.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move forward from that. Richard, I think there's only a handful of 3-story buildings. Andrea, excuse me. Can you just do a check on them? I know for a fact, and most people don't know, but I'll reveal it today, that building had a 3rd story. It did have it, and a lot of people don't know it. It did have a 3rd story entrance. There is still somewhat of an investigation, so I'm not gonna get fully in it. I responded to the scene. I know for a fact that there was. But just do me a favor, see how many they are. We're talking a handful. We're just trying to update in case this doesn't happen again. And maybe we should just look at the cost. I know that there was some valid points brought up. That's why you have public hearings, to have everybody engaged and to make accusations against the town and say you couldn't enforce that. There was some other circumstances. I'm not at liberty to discuss that. But to start here at a public hearing, just started blaming fingers and pointing fingers and saying where the town is inept. That's somebody else's personal agenda. And I'm sorry to the public, we don't really have to entertain that, because it's not really a public hearing when those things happen. How you doing? You want to come back up?
I just have one other comment. In your legislation, and I know it in the housing code, I think you ought to still think about some tenant responsibilities also. And I think when the board looks at some of this stuff, and I have a little bit of familiarity with it, I think tenants also should be held responsible for some of the things that they do, because I know tenants take off smoke detectors from there and take them down. They take the batteries out, even if you put the 10-year lifetime smoke, battery-powered smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, they take them down. And I think that a tenant should also be responsible for doing that, because a landlord or an owner of a property is not a police officer that can go in there every day, has to get permission to go into these apartments. And I think if a tenant constantly abuses those violations, they should be held responsible, as well as the owner of the property should be held responsible.
Okay,
And
thank you.
I think that should be also put within your legislation, that an owner has some recourse against some of these tenants that do this constantly.
Okay.
Well, I would just say, just in a general sense, that's what the lease should, that's what the lease should, you know.
Yeah, but a landlord doesn't have permission to constantly walk in and out of someone's house.
Well, I think, well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about people's leases with tenants, but, I mean, there is ways to have access. But what I will say is our code enforcement, in a general sense, if something is clearly the result of a tenant's conduct, code enforcement will issue violations to the tenants.
Yeah, but you can't put all burden on code enforcement. They have enough work to do. Besides doing housing, they do many other things. And you'd have to have an army of code enforcement officers to enforce. You said you had 2,000 units. I mean, just do the math. Not only do you have 2,000 units, but what about all the other violations, that pool and fence violations and everything else that occurs in the town? Building without building permits and other things.
We investigate all of those.
I don't think so. That's impossible.
When
Not with
something is brought to
not
our
with the
attention,
staff
it's
that you have
investigated.
now, it's impossible. Totally impossible. But my comment is, I think some tenant responsibility should be enforced more also.
At the end of the day, you would still need code enforcement to enforce that, even if you had something like that. That's my point.
I just wanted to briefly address some of Jim's comments are very good. I just want the board to be aware that under the building code, and I don't know what the numbers are, 50,000 may be too much, too little, irrelevant for the cost of life safety. However, the building code will allow a 13R system, not a 13D system. It's more of a residentially based sprinkler system, which is more cost effective for the landlords to install. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. It doesn't have to be a bona fide, like a
Commercial.
commercial system. It can be a 13R system. So, all right?
That's in the 2020 code.
Yeah. Yep, yep.
Again,
You know what, I think that now that we're mentioning this, maybe, Eric, we can just look into the fact that if these houses do have, because we know the recent fire did have a third staircase, do you still put in the suppression system? Possibly not, because they were built to have that as an escape, and most of these, from what I understand, it was just an exit. It wasn't for you to, go up and down and start visiting. It was very
And
specific.
a lot of them weren't even built
So-
as three families. They were single-family homes in the village
Yeah.
that were subsequently
Well,
turned into
this
three
one was built
families.
as a three-story.
Three-story,
Wasn't it?
but I'm
Yeah,
saying not three families.
Three-family, I'm sorry.
Right, correct, yeah.
Three-family. So, and it had the staircase, so maybe that's something that we might just tweak, I have to tweak.
I'll
you
review
know,
that
you
with
can
Andreas and
consider-
Rich.
Yeah, you might want to work that out together, Andres.
You
If it
can-
does have it and it's working, obviously, it's not going to be locked and that kind of thing.
I think the main purpose in a fire suppression system is the path of travel that exiting out the building. I think that's the most important thing. And it'll do the same job at a much more reasonable price, and it's a domestic system, which is connected to the actual water system, and it's a much cheaper system. It can be done in PVC pipe, and it's and it does the same thing. The main thing of the building code is for someone to exit the building. Was the main purpose when the building code was created. It's the main purpose of the building code right now, is to have a safe exit out of a building. So I think you should think about this a little bit more, and I think you should have consultations a little bit more with architects and engineers before you do a sweeping system like this, and make it more cost-effective, and it makes the people much more agreeable to do these things. I'm sure most of the landlords don't want people to die in their house. So, I mean, that's why, and if the board wants to talk to me, I know the inspector, I'd be more than happy to go over it with them.
Good, okay.
I'm very familiar with it.
Thank you. Okay, Chip, anyone else? Okay. That's it? No one else? Okay, we're going to close this portion of this hearing, and we're going to leave it open for comment for 10 days until 4:30 PM on April 15th at the town clerk's office. And that's going to be, that was, which one? Okay, we got one more, right?
Good old chapter 255.
Oh, doesn't go away, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, our next hearing was scheduled for 2:10. It is now 3:21. We are opening up a public hearing for consideration amending chapter 255. Is it 250? Yep, Chapter 255. And we're going to move forward, and who's going to take the lead on that?
Mr. Kearns.
Mr. Kearns, did you want to give us a little background and we can move forward on it? Sure. Very
Spat this
enthusiastic.
for a couple of years, so.
I want to thank the Business Advisory Committee for putting together a group of somewhere between 17 and 27 businesses that do events in and around Riverhead. Even though it's been amended, I can tell you that it's still more onerous than other towns. And I think people have this fear that this is going to affect them in their neighborhoods. Most of these large events don't take place anywhere near anybody's homes, for one. For two, the economic development benefit is incredible to the businesses in this town. And also, we compete with other towns in terms of events. In addition, I'll say this. The town square is going to be a hangout if it's not activated every single weekend with events. And we need to be friendly to the people that produce events and be welcoming to people that want to bring events to our town. It's been a lot longer haul than we expected. I mean, this committee, again, did a great job. I did read some comments that came in and appreciate everybody's comments. And that's all I have to say. Again, I can't say enough about the work that the committee did to get this where it is now.
I think we all read the comments that came in from Jamesport Civic, and I want to thank them for taking the time to do it because it was pretty involved, and they pointed out a couple things that I think we do need to tweak or amend prior to this possibly going up for a vote. But I agree somewhat in what Bob said about what we need in this town and how we don't want to scare people away, but at the same time, we want to make it right for everybody involved. And yeah, we're not setting up big events in residential neighborhoods, but some of these events are certainly needed to help your town grow. And I think that was the fine line that was walked on this Chapter 255 to make it easier for corporations and event companies to hold things without bogging down our town clerk's office and our town attorney's office and trying to make it as easy as it could be for an application and for things to proceed in a timely manner. And I think that's the gist of what this is about, but there are some points, and like I said, Jamesport Civic did point out a couple things, and I think we might have to have some discussions about those in the very near future before we look to go forward with this.
Well, and I
Just to
did-
make a couple of
Sure,
amendments.
well, I did look at those, and for one, they pointed out something really good, and they were absolutely right, that, and I'll tell you what it is in a second. There's something on the application that was not in the code, and I want to make it clear to that civic association that, when I can find it, that there is a site map requirement, there's a hold harmless requirement, and there's a public safety plan that must be submitted with the application. That was left out of the code, not on purpose, it was just a slip up. It is now back into the code. There may be a couple other minor things, but look, we looked at the code in probably 8 surrounding towns, and in order to come up with this. But anyway, those are the major things that I saw from the Jamesport Civic that was addressed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from the public want to come forward? Barbara? You're from Jamesport?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara Blass, I live in Jamesport. First, I'd like to say that the hearing, as it appears on your agenda, is a hearing to amend parades and assemblies. And the public notice also read a hearing to amend Chapter 255, parades and assemblies. Chapter 255 is parades, assemblies, and special events. That's what that
Right.
chapter is. And it's unfortunate that the special events portion was left out because that may have been a little bit misleading. I'm sure it was not intentional.
It
But-
wasn't intentional.
Yeah,
A parade is a special event, so.
But special events,
Yeah,
you know,
okay,
when
go
we
ahead,
think of
Barbara. Let's just go forward. We got that, and
Okay.
it was to address the 255, and that was the title. They left something out. We got it. We'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. As proposed, the written application for a special event no longer has to include a plan drawn to scale. Now, I understand there are some things that you said you recognized were omitted, but
No, it's in the application. What I just read, Barbara, is from
It's
the
in the application, and I'm looking at the code, and I'm understanding now that you recognize that, but I'm going to read the statement that I have.
No, you guys brought it out, and I thank you.
A plan drawn to scale showing the size of the property and the streets or highways abutting said property no longer is required. Location of all signs to be erected and the number of location and of tents, if any. Designated areas for use of spectators, exhibitors, vendors, the location of temporary utilities to be installed for the event, parking layout, and means of ingress and egress. Application would no longer include information about the use of live music, loudspeakers, or the type and location of speakers and other audio equipment, if any. So my question was, what substantive information is actually being required for an application? I do believe, however, a short-form EAF should be required for all special event permits. There's a statement in the code that says the town board will assess whether the event impacts general health, safety, and welfare of the town as identified through seeker pursuant to Part 617. And I wonder how you get there if you don't have an environmental assessment form to evaluate. It doesn't seem like you can get there without that. And you just may want to check Section 25510A1, 2, and 3. I think you'll notice that there are some inconsistent edits that you made. They're supposed to be the same, with the only change being the number of attendees. And if you look at it, you deleted some words in some paragraph and not the others. They're just,
Which one was that, Barbara?
check 25510A1, 2, and 3. I think you'll see that there are some inconsistencies there. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you, Barbara, for bringing that out. Anyone else from the public? Chip, do we have anyone? Okay. It isn't a board meeting if we don't have John, right? Gotta have him. Welcome. John, we thought you abandoned us. We didn't see you in the audience. Oh, no, he's got his mic off. This should be right. His mic is not on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, John.
Sorry, it disappeared. I only half heard your welcoming comment, Supervisor, but I'm sure you felt it. I have just a couple of small things, and maybe I'm misunderstanding something about this, but it has to do with assembly of events or marches. I mean, for example, how would the thing that was done for Ukraine fit into this formula? How would the demonstrations that were done on the circle near the hospital, whether they were the Black Lives Matter kind of demonstrations or the demonstration around masking, are those kinds of public policy events somehow handled differently? Because I was thinking this timeline on application doesn't fit very well with sometimes the time pressure on public concern on issues.
Is that all your comments?
No, that's just a question. It's really just a question.
So, John, parades and assemblies are on, John, the parade and assembly permit is on public property. So I don't know that everyone, like the Ukrainian thing, whether they filed a permit or just,
You don't have
it just happened organically.
It's not necessary.
It's-
It's typical use of the theater, so it's
Yeah.
not necessary.
No, not the theater, he was saying at the circle.
Well, the circle
You
is
know,
where
people
the
have the
theater is.
right to, people also have the right in America, they have the freedom to demonstrate.
So this would not affect those kinds of things. That's just all I'm trying to
No,
clarify.
John, just like a wedding, you wouldn't have to apply for a special permit. It's, you know, it's a gathering of maybe more than 100 people or more than 300 people, but those aren't under Chapter 255s.
It's a permitted use. To have concerts. That was, those were concerts.
In other words, that, this does not in any way constrain that sort of public expression of opinion.
Okay,
Not
so,
as long as we're in America.
okay, so if it's an
I
organized.
know, but I mean, I haven't done it in Riverhead and other places. In Washington, for instance, if you want to do something, it's a long permit process that you have to go through to get permission to do it. And that's obviously the special sensitivity of the Capitol. But I'm wondering, I just wanted to be clear that there wasn't some kind of a involved 45-day process for people to do those kinds of politically focused or policy-focused events.
A humanitarian fundraiser, that's what it was, with the permitted use of having concerts and all the proceeds going to the Ukraine. I don't, you know, it's very appropriate.
No, I'm not thinking of the fundraiser. I'm thinking of the demonstration or the rally in front of Town Hall. This is what I was thinking of, not the fundraiser at the theater, the event that you spoke at Town Hall.
That was on town property, John, but if you talk about, say, something that requires an assembly permit, that would be granted via the police department by the police chief. It's not a Chapter 255 item. So
Okay.
in gatherings like that, the chief of police makes a determination as to whether or not to grant a permit.
Okay,
And then
without,
he informs the town board of same.
without the time frame requirements. Okay, thanks. Just a question, that's all.
Yeah, and Tim, in that case, I think the event occurred on the weekend, it was quick for Monday. So it was very quickly, they set,
Yeah.
on Saturday, they
Yeah.
set the time and date.
Yeah, but
They
on
checked
town
with the
property,
police.
that's not anything we
Yeah,
would
and
have
they
to
checked with the
file.
police, and they thought there wasn't
Right.
gonna be any problems with the traffic and so forth. Because I remember going out of a meeting, we were there carrying the podium, because I'm saying, oh my God, you know, this is happening so quick. And it went very well. You know, I don't know how you feel about it, but I looked outside, it went
was very
very well. Yes, okay.
So.
The one thing that I have on
If I
my-
could just clarify something?
Sure.
Okay. So this does require you to make an application for a permit for a parade or an assembly that is going to be on the street, sidewalks, or public property.
Yeah.
It does.
And that's handled via the chief.
And that is, that is an application that's made to the police chief. But I just want to be clear that with respect to parades and assemblies, a permit is required, and there is a process for that.
But then it does require that 45-day lead time.
And that's why it's called a special event, right?
Yeah, like we do a
This is-
Halloween
this is for
parade.
parades and
and
assemblies.
The Lions does a parade, and so that's.
Live on the 25?
Yeah, a Live on 25, that requires parade and assembly permits. Right, as well as,
It's not, there's two separate articles in there. Article 1 is parades and assemblies. Article 2 is special events.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Article 2 is the one that has the time limit, Article 1 is not.
Right.
okay.
Well, no, Article 1 does have a time limit for the application permit.
Is it, I don't think it's the same,
Did you want to come up because we can't hear you? on
Right,
TV,
see-
we're being prompted, we can't hear you. So, they can't hear you. How you doing?
Hi, good, how are you?
Your name and,
Monique Parsons from Bating Hollow.
okay, hi, Monique.
I'm not 100% sure, and I don't have it in front of me, what the,
So under Article 1, the application for a permit, parades, assemblies, and block parties, application shall be on a form provided by the police department addressed to the chief of police, filed with the office of the chief of police, and filed at least 45 days prior to the scheduled event.
Yeah.
But I think to Mr. McAuliffe's point, you know, some of those events that you referenced that you say were more organic, just sort of quickly organized, I can't say that that I have knowledge that those had the benefit of a permit.
Yeah, I mean, he referenced the circle, the people that came around the circle, and I think they were, there was some protesting going on there. I don't know that, we'd have to speak to the chief to see if they got a permit for that.
Well, and I think that there's a little bit of discretion with the chief of police as to as to how he's going to treat those types of events. I know Mr. McAuliffe's not there anymore, but that would be my response, Mr.
Okay.
McAuliffe.
And Eric, the chief, I did speak to the chief earlier this afternoon, he's away, but he wants to make sure that he weighs in a little bit, especially in this regard, so there'll be a little bit of tweaking.
I just want to say thank you to Monique. I know that you put a ton of hours and helped write this alongside with Councilman Kearns. And so I appreciate all the work you put into this, so thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Monique,
There were a few people on it.
Yeah, and Dean was spearheading this for 3 years. I remember him approaching me, hey, look at this, and it was a disaster. And I think this culminated when the chicken kids, a couple of years ago, could not go anywhere. And I've said it before, that I was calling places, and we did find a place. That was sad. It was a sad 3 or 4 days. They were able to continue with it, but this is such a needed event here in Riverhead for the parents and young kids. And I think they just started their, this year, right? I think this week they started their event.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, we did. We got something from Susan.
That's
And,
great.
yeah, very much needed, and it helps the entire community.
Yes.
And thank you, Dean, because I know you spent so many hours with this.
So Monique, and I think this is relative, what's your experience, because you do events in other towns, the process?
So, most recently, I just filed a permit for the town of Babylon. Their application process is extremely simplified. It is a one-page application, basic information, name, phone number, event address, description of the event, and a $100 fee. And that has to be submitted 40 days prior to the event, anything that has 5,000 people or less. So, in other areas or other townships, it's definitely not like this. But I think that these are all good changes, and I think that we're moving in a really great direction for the town of Riverhead. I do want to just address two things that Mrs. Blass spoke about. So most specifically, the EAF, the Environmental Assessment Form. I believe back at a town meeting a while back, Jeffrey Murphy had spoken to that he reviews all of the 255 applications that come in, and that would be something that he would catch if there was any type of environmental impact that would negatively affect the site or residents, et cetera. So that would be the catch for that. The thing with the EAF is that it's confusing, and a lot of people don't understand how to complete it correctly. And that could be misleading for not only the producer, but for the people that are reviewing the application form as well. And then the second thing I wanted to address was Ms. Blass had referred to some of the items that were stricken from the code, such as where tents were going to be placed and generators and other things of that nature. That's actually addressed in the public safety plan by the fire marshal. So in his request, that public safety plan outlines everything that needs to be in there, and those should be detailed on the site map, which a tentative site map should also be submitted with the application. So those, even though they've come out of the code, they really didn't come out of that application process, and the fire marshal can amend his fire safety plan how he wishes to see things included in the application. And I believe he uses the state fire safety plan and guide. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks very much, and Barbara Blass again. I appreciate the comments and clarification on those aspects that were just brought up. I do want to say, however, that the special events cover not just the kinds of activities you're expecting downtown and the events that you're talking about, but they also cover the drag racing events. And that's where my head was at in dealing with the kinds of information that was not reflected as being required in assessing the drag racing events at EPCAL. They're very, very different from what we expect and hope to get downtown. Different kind of environment entirely. And I do know with respect to the EAF, I know that the events at EPCAL were given a neg deck because it came under a temporary use. And Mr. Murphy had said any short-term temporary use can be considered under seeker as eligible for a negative declaration. However, a short-term event like the Field Day concert or the Bonnaroo concert, that was, again, a one-day event, over 4,000 people, you can't necessarily say that that would not have environmental impacts. So I'm just suggesting, based upon the nature of the event, that perhaps its location, some would trigger more environmental review than others, and I don't think you can basically capture them all with one broad stroke.
Well, and Barbara, I'll just
Yes.
suggest that because what Monique said is absolutely correct, right? That planning does see this, and if they believe an EAF needs to be done, they will say that. And the reason why that language was pulled out, and I just want to echo what Monique said about where is the tent going to be, where is this going to be, where is that going to be, you know, then we have to imagine like 100 different types of events, and then where's that, blah, blah, blah. But that comes under the the purview of the fire marshal. And he's the one, and he'll tell you, this is what I need. And that's how that, you know, rather than us to try to describe it in code, that's what happens.
And I totally understand that, and that's why we have individuals that we rely upon to do things like that. The code should reflect that those kinds of plans are being required as part of the application.
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
And you're right, and I'm
That's all.
sorry, it's
No,
in
no,
the
no.
application,
I
it's
know,
in
I
the
know.
application form, and it's going to go into the code.
That's all I would,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara, and you're correct, drag racing is a special event. I agree with you. Okay, we have one more? Who- Okay, Joan Sneer? Okay.
Sorry about that, folks.
We can hear you now, Joan.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. Madam Supervisor, Councilman. I just would like to add to the comments that I would hope that before any amendments are finalized, that those who are making and proposing these revisions would consult with those who will be in the role of enforcing the revisions, such as the town fire marshal and chief of police. And not only the town board and those businesses and organizations that hope to host special events. I think it's important to get input from those people in the offices who will have the onus of monitoring, of reviewing the applications, and of enforcing the codes. Thank you.
Joan, yes, thank you, Joan. I just want to let you know, when the application goes into the town clerk, it does go to the fire marshal, it goes to the police, and it goes to planning before it even comes to the town board.
I can appreciate that, but that's rather like throwing the life jacket to someone after the boat's already sunk and they're in the water. We should get in front of this by making sure that the codes align with what the officials who have to do the enforcement are capable of enforcing,
They were
and
all,
what they think is reasonable and fair.
Mrs. Sear, they were all part of the process of doing this. So they weren't excluded from this.
Unfortunately, I know that they were not.
That's incorrect. I don't know where you're getting your information from. That is incorrect.
I'm getting that information from town officials.
Somebody's not telling you the truth. Police department was part of this, fire marshal was part of this, planning was part of this. Every agency involved was part of doing these rules and regs. They were
Well,
done by
yes,
the businesses.
perhaps drawing up the original ones, but not these proposed amendments, sir. I'm sorry. I disagree with you, and I would suggest that you do further research on that.
You can disagree, ma'am, but I'm telling you publicly, you're very wrong.
And I am telling you publicly that you are very wrong. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Ma'am, do you want to tell us why you think that it wasn't fully discussed with those departments? Or what the basis of your knowledge
Because
for
of
that is?
personal conversations I've had with people that I don't feel is fair to disclose here.
Well, we can easily
Okay, well,
solve
it's
this.
hard for us to assign, sorry,
Okay.
Madam Supervisor, it's just, I'm saying that it's hard for us to assign, a lot of weight to that opinion or statement that you're putting on the record in the context of this public hearing if there isn't, if there isn't details. I mean, it's just sort of a generalized statement at this point.
I understand that, and again, my comment is that I would hope that any amendments that you propose would be drawn up in consultation with the departments that have to enforce it, such as the fire chief and the fire marshal. That is my statement for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know it's not.
Fire chief might be true.
Misunderstanding,
Fire,
yeah.
fire marshal, no. Fire marshal was present and participated in this. Fire chief was not.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know if that's where she's going with this, but
I think, Tim, I think
they
that's,
weren't part of the committee.
I think that's where she's going with it. I think that, I spoke to Craig, he had some concerns over the application timings, and I sat with him, even though way back we went over it, I guess, so we're still in conversation.
This can be easily solved. Just
Yeah.
go back to every head
Absolutely.
and say, hey, here we are, we had the public hearing. You have anything, do we need to adjust? And it's it.
Dude,
It's
if you
an
want,
easy
it's a waste
fix.
of time. They
Easy.
were part of this. They
Yeah.
were part of who made this. So
Okay, so it's an
I don't
easy-
understand why you would even want to do that. I have no problem if you do it,
It's a phone call.
but it's
so,
just
yeah.
ludicrous to listen to somebody say something that they don't know what they're talking about.
And if I could just add that, under Section 12 of this proposed amendment, there is still a relatively comprehensive review process that involves all of the agencies and involves a recommendation or a consideration for the town board, really, if that relates to a state environmental quality review pursuant to New York State rules and regs. So that is still part of the review process. If that's something that's deficient in the application on the planning board's initial review of it, I'm sure that that's something that the planning board, prior to the town board approving the special event, would require the applicant to produce.
Yeah, and I think that, again, that falls in planning. If it's done in grassland and EPCAL, I'm sure planning's going to want it in EAS. So I think people in the event business understand that if it's on a runway and it's a race, to your point, Barbara, I mean,
There's a
Requires
difference
different
between a drag race and a 5K.
yeah, exactly.
They're all special events, no matter how you slice it.
Yes, they are. I'm just saying in terms of
Yeah.
potential impact on the environment.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, nothing, no application, no security measure shall apply to everything. Yeah, everything is specific according to the circumstances. And there is no cookie cutter approach to a special event, or when you implement security in any organization, public or private. So those are standards in managing public safety.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jefferson
Good
Murphy. And just to restate exactly what you just said, Madam Supervisor, they're not all the same. But when you look at ones for the downtown events, the road races, I don't look at those in great detail. The fire marshal, the police, those events absolutely are reviewed by those agencies. From an environmental standpoint, they don't rise to that level of environmental review. EPCAL is on the other end of the spectrum, and that's where, in that case, we went to DEC to talk to them and find out whatever concerns they had. And if you recall, we met with DEC last year on site to review the events. And when the events came forward again this year, I reached out to DEC again to see if they had any problems with the way they were run last year. They said absolutely not. There was one concern about the date, and unfortunately that one was canceled. So that had to do with the bird breeding season.
Yeah,
So
April 16th.
we addressed that concern. The gentleman that we met on site, he had no concerns. Now, for example, with the 4-H club, they had a running event and running through the woods, and they were bringing in 1,000 cars parking on grass. That was a concern. They proposed part of the course through a wetland, and identified that. Looking at the town GIS, I was able to map out their map based upon our town wetland map and discovered that the course did go through a wetland. They altered their running course to avoid the wetland. So every event, especially off course in the woods, that sort of thing, has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. This year, for example, I think we need to take a harder look at the special events along Sound Avenue with regard to parking and traffic safety. That's something that you're going to hear on Thursday with our traffic consultant on the comp plan. We're going to talk about that very issue this Thursday's work session. So every event is going to be looked at individually, and everyone is unique.
And it should be. Yep, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, any other comments? No? Okay, we're going to now close the public portion section of this hearing, and we're going to leave it open for 10 days until 4:30 PM on April 15th, 2022, at the town clerk's office. This is going to conclude our public hearing portion of this meeting, and we're now going to move on to public comments on the resolutions before us today. And does anyone wish to be heard in this regard?
Just a reminder for everyone that on the matter of comments on resolutions, we're going to ask that you state your name and your hamlet, the resolution that you're referring to, and pursuant to the town board's adopted rules, comments should be limited to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Barbara Blass, Jamesport. There are 8 resolutions that call for public hearings that are in your packet, and 7 of those 8 are scheduled for the afternoon of May 3rd. Several of them pertain to downtown redevelopment, which has been a topic of considerable interest to the residents, and I just respectfully request that perhaps the town board consider adjourning those hearings on the afternoon of the 3rd and continuing them on the following week on the 17th in the evening meeting, just to give a broader opportunity for public participation. Excuse me. There's a Resolution 270, there's a seeker date that is incorrect. It's important for coordinated review purposes and seeker accuracy that the dates be accurate. Resolution 282 grants a Chapter 229 permit to remove 5,373 cubic yards of material. And I have a question, and I hope you would indulge me and answer it, but why would the town waive the requirement for a letter of credit or a performance bond for a 229 permit? I understand you have the ability to waive a requirement for a monitor, which you, I guess, is included in that blanket waiver. But the bond is the only assurance that you have that the applicant is abiding by the terms of the permit and not removing more material than permitted and not importing anything that's unauthorized. without that particular provision, your engineer could be eligible or able to review and analyze the activity after the fact to make sure that it was consistent with the quantities coming in and making sure that nothing, or quantities going out, making sure that nothing unauthorized is coming in. But there's a waiver of all requirements in that chapter other than the $2 per yard charge, and I'm just questioning that as to whether that's a wise move or not.
That's a comment? Anybody want to comment on her comment? No? Okay.
May I ask, are you going to waive the requirement for a letter of credit or performance bond? That's, that kind of material is 170 truckloads of material coming in and out of that. I mean, I just don't understand why you would not, if you're not monitoring it, somebody's got to check. And that the check, in this case, is at the end of the performance of the activity, where your engineer would say, yeah, they didn't take out more than they should have. Again, I just don't know why you would want to waive that requirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Can we get an answer from that? I don't know the answer to that. I would like to know the answer to it.
282.
What is it?
282.
Jefferson, do you? So it looks like it was prepared by Andreas.
Okay. So where's Andreas? He was just here.
I believe he left after the conclusion of the public hearing.
Okay.
My
Or maybe he's
recommendation
still
would be,
watching. Can you reach him and see if you can reach Andreas? It's only across the street. And we should answer Ms. Glass's question.
Somebody else in the meantime?
Yeah, is there anybody else?
I don't think so, yeah. All right, so why don't we take another comment if there's anybody? There's nobody online? Okay, there is somebody now, so, Barbara, we're gonna hold off if we can get him, okay?
We're gonna.
All right. Oh, Mr. Harari? Mr. Happy?
Ron, you're muted.
Come on, Ron.
Thank you. My question is, what analysis has the town undertaken in terms of the impact of multiple multifamily housing projects on the town's infrastructure, if any?
Which resolution is
what resolution are you speaking about, Mr. Harari?
I mean, this is general comments, but among the
No,
This
it's
is
not.
comments
It's
on
based on the
resolutions.
resolutions before us, Mr. Harari. Mr. Harari.
Among the many resolutions today is a resolution involving the Suffolk Theater's construction of multiple apartment units. My question is, this is only one of multiple projects which, by my estimation, will top out at probably in excess of 1,000 units, contrary to the original master plan. My question is, what analysis, if any, has the town undertaken to determine the impact of these units in terms of fire, police, water, sewer, and the school system?
Maintain order specifies the resolution.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, which resolution is this?
You have a resolution number? Because we usually ask you to identify the resolution number.
You have a resolution authorizing the construction of multiple units at the Suffolk Theater.
That was a public
That
hearing.
was a
on
public
resolution.
hearing on the site plan for Suffolk Theater.
Right.
That public hearing was
Closed.
over about an hour and 40 minutes ago. If you have written comments, you can submit them to the town clerk by 4:30 on April 15th.
I'll make my comment during the public comments portion.
Okay.
Okay.
I know it's a tough question to answer, guys, because frankly, I doubt that you've
I'm going to ask you to
any-
stop now if you're not going to speak about a specific resolution.
Okay, again, I just want to remind everyone, at the moment, we are taking comments on the resolutions before us. And if possible, please identify the resolution so people don't have to go through it. Do we have anybody else? Do we have anybody in the audience? Does anybody on the board want to comment?
No, I see Andreas standing outside. I would like for him
Okay.
to come in.
Yeah, so, well, we're going to go back to resolution, what was it, 282?
Yeah, 282.
282, and Andreas, can you get Andreas? Apparently he's standing
I
outside.
think
Barbara's out there,
we're
too.
waiting on,
Oh, they're both
Frank, too.
discussing?
we're waiting on Frank too.
Okay, yeah. So Barbara could start Andreas and then Frank, because that's all we have, and then we're gonna close. Frank will be here, he's quick.
I'm right here.
I know you are. Andreas, sorry, welcome back. There was a question by Barbara Blast concerning Resolution 282.
Yep.
You just spoke to her? Are you familiar with what's going on?
Yes,
Her
I see
request?
that. So
Okay.
it appears that I probably erroneously left this in here from my template. I think that, Jim, if you're willing to, we just strike that out of it, and then all the other provisions of Chapter 229, like a bond and all that stuff, will still prevail, and then we can just,
Well, if they give you, if we give the money in cash, because a check was given for the amount of fill that was taken out, we gave you.
All right, Jim, just step up to the microphone, please, and
We gave you a
identify.
check for the amount of fill that was taken out, was being taken out. Yeah, the permit fee, the $2 a yard, was given to you.
so we're talking about other provisions of it, such as bonding and whatever else. This sentence here, I shouldn't have put in this.
He's an architect.
So we
He
strike that
represents
sentence.
Riverhead Dodge in the
Approve the
excavation.
resolution.
Yeah,
Move forward.
that's fine.
Which
Uh,
sentence
and-
are we
And
striking?
monitoring what fill comes out, you have to have tickets filled when you fill the truck up. You get a ticket for the yardage.
And that's what, so we're, Mr. Kern, I'm sorry to answer your question. All other provisions of chapter 229 being hereby waived and be a further result. I shouldn't have put that in there.
No.
All
I
right,
would
so
say
we have to strike this, so then we have to adjust this resolution.
That's all the conversation's about right now,
Got
is
it.
that the waiver should not have been
Right
waived.
now, if you want, I'll go
And
straight.
thank you, Barbara, for picking up on
Yeah,
that.
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Barbara, you got your...
the resolution, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so we're gonna amend the resolution. We can take a vote on amending it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, when we get to it.
Yeah.
We're in the open comment
Yep,
period
so we're
for
gonna take a
resolutions.
vote,
Yeah, well,
and it's gonna be
The owner
short.
is ready to start the job.
Mm-hmm.
This is Riverhead Dodge.
Right. No, we can waive it right here today
Yeah.
when we
We're
vote
gonna,
on it.
yep,
Yeah, but we met all the provisions that we required in that I gave you those.
Understood.
Everything,
Yes.
100%.
We understand.
all right, you're gonna have an answer in about 20 minutes, half an hour. How's that? Okay?
Because I have to call the owner.
Okay,
I'll change it right now and bring new ones,
Okay.
new copies back.
that's not a problem, just give it to her when you get a chance.
Okay.
You don't need to do it right now, because we can do it, amend it, and then we'll follow up tomorrow, today, later on
That's
today,
fine,
tomorrow.
I'll get it done, it's a quick
Yeah,
thing, so.
there's no real hurry. It's just one strike. So hearing no one else? Hearing-
Andreas,
Did you want?
just talk to me before you finish it.
Oh, okay, sure, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, thank you.
So, hearing no one to come further forward, we're gonna move to resolutions. And today we have Diane's imposter, Julie. She's doing a great job so far, and can you please read the resolutions for a vote?
Sure, resolution 247.
247 authorizes the removal of fixed assets. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 248.
Sets fees for spring, summer brochure. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 249.
Ratifies acceptance of a donation. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes, and thank you for the donation to our senior center for Meals on Wheels.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 250.
Authorize purchase of a 2022 or newer Vector track by the Town of Riverhead Highway Department. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Vote. Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 251.
Awards bid for printing of recreation brochure. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 252.
Approved special event, Chapter 255, application for Riverhead Country Fair. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes, one of our biggest events.
Be nice to have it back after.
Yes.
not
Good
having-
weather, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the resolution is adopted. Resolution 253.
Amends Resolution 2022-79, approving special event Chapter 255 application for Racetrack Knott Street at EPCAL 2022 Spring Classic. So moved.
Second.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 254.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a stipulation with the CSEA Local 1000 AFSCME AFL-CIO, the Riverhead Town Police Benevolent Association, and the Riverhead Town Police Superior Officers Benevolent Association. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Absolutely yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes, well-deserved, and we want to thank all the employees who are helping out this other employee.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 255.
Attendance of one police department employee to the Traffic Safety Conference. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Okay, what number are you talking about? I'm just going.
255.
This is going, the police department to the, okay. I'd like to amend this resolution. I know, there was a discussion back and forth. This is related to, okay, they did include it, I'm sorry. We wanted to include the employee who was going. Initially, when we saw the resolution, it didn't have the employee, but I see that they corrected
Yeah,
it.
the
so-
employee numbers in there.
Yeah, good. Okay, we're fine. Yes.
Okay, resolution is adopted. Resolution 256.
Reclassifies a principal office assistant in the engineering department. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 257.
Reassigns the salary of an account clerk. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
All right, I gotta think about it a little bit. Okay, I'll vote yes.
Bayrock.
Well deserved, yes.
Hubbard.
Absolutely well-deserved, yes.
Aguirre.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yay, the
your work.
resolution is adopted.
This must be a new one for you. It's not gonna happen often, right?
Peer pressure here.
Resolution 258.
Accepts the retirement of the town personnel officer. Sadly, I say yes, move it.
I need a second.
Seconded.
Kern.
Vote, please.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes. Meg will be missed, and I wish her well on her retirement, but yes.
Hubbard.
I'm not sad for her, because she's gonna go home and take care of grandchildren, so I think that's far better than working for the town of Riverhead, quite honestly. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I wish her the best of luck and thank her for her work for our town over the years, but I know she's gonna be very happy taking care of her grandchildren, so, yes.
Aguirre?
Yes, we wish her lots of luck.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 259.
Ratifies and approves the interdepartmental transfer of an employee, so moved.
Can I get a
Second.
second? Great, thank you. Vote, please.
Kern?
Knappen.
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Adoption, the resolution is adopted. Resolution 260.
Accepts Highway Superintendent's personnel report and request for town board resolution to effectuate. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 261.
Accepts Highway Superintendent's personnel report and request for town board resolution to effectuate personnel requests, so moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 262.
Accepts Highway Superintendent's personnel report and request for town board resolution to effectuate personnel requests. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 263.
Round 17 Downtown Revitalization Grant Project number 62204 for the installation of LED lighting. So moved.
Bill's got a comment?
Yes, I just need to make a correction to that. There's just a transposition error on the third line. Instead of 3608, it should be 3068. I'll leave a copy for you, Jimmy.
So moved as amended.
Seconded as amended.
Vote, please, as amended.
Kern?
Yes, as amended.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted as amended. Resolution number 264.
Authorizes the settlement of a claim made against the town of Riverhead, Cynthia Dalsacy. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 265.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement non-proton with Long Island Telecommunications and Electronic Services Incorporated. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 266.
Authorizes Lawrence M. Levy, DBA On-Site Productions, to provide additional audiovisual production services for the town of Riverhead, DRI Public Meetings 321, 2022. So moved.
Can I get a second, please?
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 267.
Authorizes Lawrence M. Levy, DBA On-Site Productions, to provide additional audiovisual production services regarding the Board of Assessment Review hearing on May 17, 2022. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
We just gave him one. You got to get two? All right, yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 268.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement with Netflix Production LLC for the use of town of Riverhead premises for police department personnel and vehicles regarding a film project. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
What people don't know is that the starring role is Bob Kern in this, so it's very important that you tune into this Netflix movie. But yes, I vote yes.
Aguirre?
That's going to be a long movie, that's for sure. Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 269.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Celtic Quest Incorporated. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please. Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 270.
Madam Supervisor, there is, Barbara Blastic, make one notation. There is a date that's in error. It says December 7th, 2022, and it should read 2021. It's on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whereas.
Okay, so we're gonna amend it to 2021, the year. Okay,
Does she have consulting fees?
She's got good reading glasses
And
out
she's great. Thank you, Barbara.
okay, so we're gonna make that amendment, and somebody wanna read it and put it forward as amended?
Which one are we on?
270.
270.
That's me. Where, just tell me,
Okay.
okay. So, let's see, assumes lead agency status, issues negative declaration pursuant to SECRA for the site plan application of 38 East Main Street, 38 East Main Street, Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-129-4-10.1. And I'll make one amendment to this, and it's the 1, 2, 3, 4,
It's
5,
written in.
6th whereas, the date December 7th, 2022 should read December 7th, 2021. So moved.
Can I get a second, please?
Second,
As amended?
as amended.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes, as amended.
The resolution is adopted as amended. Resolution 271.
Schedules a public hearing and authorizes the town clerk to public and post notice for a public hearing for the site plan application of 38 East Main Street, Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-129-4-10.1. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 272.
Adopts Town of Riverhead Local Solid Waste Management Plan Update. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 273.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 301, Article LVI entitled Site Plan Review, Chapter 301 to 305 of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Article 61, yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Oh, 66.
Yes, Aguirre, yes.
Nice try, B-Rod.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 274.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 301 zoning and land development, Part 2. District's Article 29 entitled Downtown Center 1, Main Street, DC 1, Zoning Use District of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Second,
Seconded.
please. Thank you. Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
1 second, please.
You have a copy of it?
No, I have it. I have it. I'm just looking for something real quick.
It's pretty big.
I know. Okay. Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 275.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 301 entitled Chapter 301 Zoning and Land Development, Attachment 3, Commercial District Schedule of Dimensional Regulations of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 276.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider local law to amend Chapter 301 zoning and land. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 277.
Publish and post for the public hearing to amend Chapter 301 of the Code of the Town of Riverhead to include Chapter 301-222.1 Small Lot Ordinance. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 278.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 301 entitled Chapter 301 Zoning and Land Development, Attachment 1, Parking Schedule of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 279.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 301, Article blah, 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 entitled Supplementary Use Regulations of the Riverhead Town Code. The blah, blah, blah is Roman numeral XLV, and I didn't go to Roman school, I went to English school, so
But
I'm
don't you
without.
follow the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I follow the $100 boxes on the Super Bowls, not Roman numerals. Thank you.
We should start a pool with Roman numerals
I know,
and tell them
I know,
to
I'd
bet.
be- I'd be
You know
lost.
that's gonna happen.
I'd be
We should
lost.
do that.
Okay.
What do we got, is that X10? 55?
45.
45, okay. Article 45.
Seconded.
So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 280.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 271 entitled Smoking of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 281.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 251 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Noise, Public Nuisances, and Property Maintenance. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 282.
Grants excavation and exportation permit as provided by Chapter 229 to Riverhead Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. So moved.
Okay, that's.
That's got to be amended.
Okay, so when. you wanna-
Removing the resolve that all other provisions of Chapter 229 being hereby waived. I would recommend we delete that resolve sentence.
Oh, right, that's, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, where is that?
so you're gonna move it forward and then we need a second with the,
Yeah, I'm
with
gonna
the
move it
amendment.
with the amendment forward.
Okay, I think Bayrod, you're gonna,
Nope,
Nope.
I'm not.
oh, it's you. You're gonna second it.
I'm going to second it.
Mhm.
Yep, second.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes is amended.
Bayrock?
Yes, and best luck to Mr. Stevens.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes,
The adoption, the resolution is adopted as
as
amended.
amended.
Resolution 283.
Pays the bills. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Bayrock?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
And I'd like to put a resolution up to remove the use of Roman numerals in any further resolution. Thank you.
Can I amend that to include
I don't
local
use
tone?
Roman numerals, by the way.
The list is starting to get long there. Okay, great. Julie, you did a great job.
Thank you.
And thank you, and this is going to conclude our resolutions for today. And at this point, we're going to open it up for public comments on any matter. Is there anyone with us in the audience that wish to come forward and comment on any matter? No, we don't have anyone in the audience, and check. Chuck.
Chuck.
Chick.
Let's go to Chip.
Chuck the chick. Although, they, you. That was funny. Chip, you do have, he does have a lot of different names, correct?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you should see his board, tons of different names, and that's what happens, people don't reveal some of them here, but, do we have anyone, Chip, from, online, virtually, to discuss anything on any matter?
Ron, you're muted.
Okay, Mr. Herreri's back with us, and, oh, he's on? Okay, great.
Thank you. I just want to renew my prior question. At this session today, the town just approved a site plan involving additional apartments in Riverhead. By my estimation, we are now, in terms of pending projects expected to be built, well over the 500-unit cap. I believe that right now there are probably in excess of 1,000 proposed units. My question is, what analysis, if any, has the town undertaken to determine the impact of these hundreds of additional units will have on school, safety, police, fire, water and sewers, hospitals, and the rest of the town's infrastructure?
Well, Ron, it basically, number one, we're not over the 500 yet, because as the code reads, it talks about having their C of Os. We do not have 500 apartments that have their C of Os at this point in time. Secondly, to your question, I think how that's going to be addressed most prominently is going to be through the comp plan.
Yeah, I think he indicated we have 1,000 apartments, and we don't,
No,
we don't even have
the
anything close to
500
that
yet.
at the moment. And then from what I understand, the buildings downtown haven't occupied much of the school, hasn't put a burden on the school. And again, we have a comp plan, and some of these buildings that are in the pipeline might not take 3 to 4 years to be addressed, and our comp plan will be completed by then. So,
We hope.
we'll hope.
All kidding aside, it
Yeah.
will be.
Okay, so, anyone else? Oh, he wants to come back in? Sure.
Is it fair to say that at this time, you really have no analysis? It may be addressed as part of your comprehensive plan in the future. And I think you're right, that at this time, there may only be 500 or so units. But I think you have hundreds more in the pipeline that have been before this board and other boards. So again, what analysis have you undertaken as of today?
Jeff, I think I'm right in by saying we're about 527 with what's in the pipeline right now. And again, to what was mentioned earlier, it's probably 2 to 3 years away before that they will be completed. And we're talking about downtown, Ron.
DC.
Do you know the
DC
total amount?
Yeah, Jeff?
Right now, we have 538 that are on the books for projected build-out, projected. We're not even close to that number in terms of actually constructed. And yes, we are looking at the overall impact of the downtown redevelopment with community development and through the comprehensive plan update.
And part of that comp plan requires us to talk to the school district, to the hospital, to the police department, to everybody that Ron's referring to, so that we know we're not going to overbuild the town and we have the services that these agencies are comfortable in being able to handle.
And both
That's all
the
part.
hospital and the school district are a member of the Central Advisory Committee and are participating in the comprehensive plan
Correct.
update.
And that was the purpose, to include them so they have a say and they can
Absolutely.
provide us with information. So I think well, Tim, you're on that committee, correct?
On the comp plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the liaison.
Oh, yeah, he's the liaison, so, and I think we have a pretty good representation. We
Very,
have
very good.
environmental, we have civic groups, so we do have a good, and that's the purpose, it's gonna be
Yep.
completed, and it's gonna be a well-rounded.
And as you mentioned, beginning of the meeting, we have the second round of the community topic meetings coming up beginning next week. So,
Yes, and I just read the whole list, and
Yep.
just to remind everybody, since it came
So-
up, I'll just
so-
reread it again. On April 2nd, environmental sustainability and renewable energy. April 14th, economic development downtown Route 58. April 25th, housing and community services. April 26th, transportation and utilities, infrastructure. And April 27th, agriculture, farmland, and historical resource preservation. They're all going to be at the Riley Elementary School, or you can attend by virtually, through Zoom. And we encourage everyone, the meetings all take place at 6 PM. And this location was picked to make a central location, so people from Wading River can meet almost midpoint, and people who are in Jamesport can also meet midpoint. So, anything else? Any other comments?
He would like to come back in, but do you want to let him ask all his questions, or do you just, because he can't?
Yeah, can we just ask all his questions and, you know, and he has 5 minutes? Okay, because he keeps coming back in on the, yeah. So, did you want to reiterate about the 5 minutes in the?
Yes. Okay, so we're going to
So
limit
what-
comments to 5 minutes.
So what thought has been given to ensuring that the developers of these substantial multifamily subsidized housing projects will contribute to the cost of increased infrastructure?
I didn't hear. Ron, I didn't hear the last part of your sentence, that contribute to what?
To the cost of infrastructure, schools, police, particularly fire. I mean, how can you make sure that the developers pay their fair share of these increased costs?
Do an airplane.
I guess that's the end of his comments.
Concerning the infrastructure, it's done through taxes. That's the purpose of paying taxes, and then you have the parking additions, and if there's any water enhancement, but as a planner,
Each of these projects are submitted to all the involved agencies through the site plan referral process. The school districts are ultimately aware. In the downtown area, we're now wanting all market rate units, and we have shown through the developments that have been approved, they have a minimal impact on the school district. The Section 8 subsidized housing has a much greater fair of providing school kids to the school district, and we have no more of those projects being proposed at this time. In fact, we have the affordable housing analysis prepared by the town's consultant on the comprehensive plan, saying that we've already reached our, I believe it's our 2030 goal of affordable housing. We're already there.
We
And I
have
think
more
it's actually good.
affordable housing than anybody on the East End, and in the two that I know of, the Riverview Lofts and the first one that went up.
Conifer.
No, not
Conifer.
Conifer, before that.
Summerwind.
Summerwind. Between those two apartment buildings, I believe there's only 10 or 11 kids that were put into the school district.
The biggest contributor is Conifer.
Yeah, I don't know what Conifer's numbers are.
Yeah, it was above 10.
The public hearing we had today about the extension on the Suffolk Theater, I was really happy to hear that it's studio and
Studios.
one bedroom
Right,
and
right.
market rate.
And market
I mean,
rate.
That's exactly what we were looking for.
And that's what all the projects that we have in the pipeline now are market rate. Michael Reichel, Frank Mancini, they get the applications on referral. It used to be that with the water district, we just would give them a water availability letter. Now we require that they pay for a map, the applicant pays for a map and plan, so they know exactly what infrastructure is going to be required of the water district from the time that they submit an application to us. So we don't think we're omitting anything. All the involved agencies have a say in terms of what their services are going to be needed and how much the fair share the applicants have to pay for.
In connection with that increased infrastructure, particularly with the water district, we do require key money for the maintenance.
That is correct.
And the parking.
And the park and rec fees. We're now
Which you're gonna
making
start
sure that
collecting.
we're not going to overlook any, the park and rec fees for any of these complexes.
Is that going to become part of the application process? Somewhere I
It's in
wonder
the
why
re-
it seems like some of these projects have gone through forward and the park and rec fees in the past haven't been collected.
Yeah, we can't go in the past, but
No, we
every
can't.
application going forward is actually in the resolution of approval.
Okay, perfect. All right, anyone else? All right, great. Thank you, everyone, and this concludes our meeting today. And can I have a first and a second to close this town board
So
meeting,
moved.
please? Can I get a second?
Second.
All opposed, all in favor, so moved. Thank you, everyone, and please be safe.